Welcome to the deep dive. We sort of pull apart interesting sources to find the core ideas for you.
And today we're looking at excerpts from A Morning Murli Om Shanti Baptada Madhuban. It's dated May 2nd, 2025.
Right. And our mission really is to get into the main concepts in this text. What's it all about?
Well, it jumps right in, doesn't it?
Right.
The big theme seems to be understanding ourselves not just as, physical bodies, but as these imperishable souls.
Imperishable souls. Okay. And their connection to what's called the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul.
Exactly. And this idea of shifting, moving from being aware of the body
The
consciousness.
soul consciousness. Yeah, that phrase comes up straight away. So let's unpack that. What does it really mean?
Well, the text gives a pretty direct instruction, doesn't it? Sit in solitude and talk to yourself.
Right. And practice. I am an imperishable soul, and I listen to the Father. Simple words, but powerful.
Definitely powerful. It's about recentering yourself, I think, turning inward instead of just reacting to everything outside.
Declaring, I am an imperishable soul. That feels like anchoring yourself somewhere different.
Somewhere eternal, maybe.
Mm.
Not just in this, temporary body. And that listening part, listening to the Father, suggests like a direct connection to wisdom.
Mm-hmm. The text then calls the soul a living being, but also a tiny point. It's almost jarring, isn't it? All our thoughts, feelings, from a tiny point.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the essence, the absolute core, like stripping away all the external stuff.
Like a seed holding a whole tree.
Kind of, yeah. And it contrasts this with what it calls the path of devotion.
How so?
It suggests that maybe traditional devotion focuses too much on physical forms, on bodily beings.
And misses this deeper understanding, like of the Supreme Father's actual name, form, land, or time, as the text puts it.
Exactly. It's presented as a fundamentally different perspective on spirituality. You need this knowledge of the soul first.
It's like trying to understand software by just polishing the monitor. You need to know what's inside.
Good analogy. Yeah. So this knowledge of the soul and the Father is key.
Okay, and then there's a big focus on remembrance.
Yeah.
Yoga, the text seems quite direct about people maybe saying they remember, but not really.
Yes, it calls out carelessness, doesn't it? It says some children falsely claim remembrance. It stresses that real remembrance takes effort.
Especially early in the morning, it mentions
Yeah.
quiet time.
Right. It's not passive. It's an active thing you do. You have to make the effort.
And the practice involves consciously thinking, I am a soul, and then having a heart-to-heart conversation.
Heart to heart. So not just intellectual study, but a deeper connection.
What's the idea behind that? Connecting heart to heart as a soul.
I think it implies getting past the mental chatter, maybe. Connecting more intuitively, more directly with that Supreme Father figure.
Because you're identifying as a soul, the communication is purer, less about worldly worries.
That seems to be the idea. Less filtered through the body's limitations.
And then it makes this link. Only soul-conscious children will keep a chart of remembrance.
Yeah, that's quite a statement. Like, keeping track is a sign of how deeply you've internalized this soul identity.
So if you're not keeping that chart or not remembering consistently,
It suggests you're probably still caught up in body consciousness most of the time, even if you understand the ideas intellectually.
it's the difference between knowing and living it.
Exactly. Living it from the soul's perspective.
Okay, let's shift to this Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, described as the highest actor of all.
But also a tiny point.
Right, but also the ocean of knowledge and the ocean of happiness. How can something be a tiny point in an infinite ocean?
It's a paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really makes you stretch your mind. Maybe the tiny point is the essence, the fundamental nature.
What's the core?
Yeah, the core. And the ocean describes the infinite qualities contained within that core, like knowledge, happiness, peace,
Like an atom containing immense energy.
perhaps. And the text also says the Father needs a body to actually speak the knowledge to us.
Ah, so that bridges the gap. The formless needs a form to communicate in our world.
Seems so. And the Father's main role, according to this, is helping souls change
Change from what to what?
from tamopradhan, which means impure, degraded.
To satopradhan, pure.
Right. That's presented as the core mission, guiding souls back to their original pure state.
And it specifically says the Father enters an ordinary body to do this.
Yes, which is interesting. It emphasizes that the intervention isn't about, solving worldly problems like business troubles or fixing relationships directly.
It's about the inner purification.
Precisely. The focus is entirely spiritual transformation.
This leads into the whole concept of the world drama and the 84 births.
Yeah, this grand cycle We're all actors, apparently, playing out an imperishable part, recorded in the soul.
Yeah,
84 lives.
it's a huge perspective shift, and this knowledge of the cycle itself is unique.
The text claims it is, yes. Unique to this specific time period called the confluence age.
Confluence, meaning?
A meeting point, an overlap, the end of one cycle and the beginning of the next. It's when the Father comes to give this knowledge.
And this knowledge leads to the end of the path of devotion.
And the start of a golden age, a time of purity and peace. It's like knowing the whole story arc, not just the scene you're in.
So the goal is becoming Satopradhan, pure, by shedding this body consciousness.
Yes. And it mentions Raja Rishis and Raja Yoga.
How is Raja Yoga different from, say, Hatha Yoga, the physical kind?
Well, as described here, Raja Yoga is all about that mental and spiritual connection. Remembering the Father, understanding yourself as a soul.
So yoga for the mind and spirit.
Exactly. Versus Hatha Yoga, which is more focused on the physical body. And it says only the Father can teach this Raja Yoga.
Because it's about that direct soul to supreme soul connection.
That seems to be the core idea. And it paints a stark picture of the current world as tamopradhan, impure.
The Father even says, I come into this impure world, into an impure body. That really emphasizes the state we're in.
It does, and it circles back to remembrance, saying that's the absolute key to becoming pure again.
Like washing away the impurity.
Kind of, yeah. Remembrance is the purifier.
There's also this interesting bit about reporting your mistakes to the Father for forgiveness.
Yeah, for forgiveness and purification. It suggests a kind of personal accountability. You recognize the mistake, you report it, and that helps cleanse the soul.
So it's not just about knowledge, it's about active self-correction.
Definitely. Knowledge, yoga practice, and actively working on yourself.
Which brings us to some key takeaways. It mentions combining yoga with knowledge, but also imbibing good manners.
It's being very sweet, not causing sorrow to anyone. It sounds like the inner work should show on the outside.
So the soul consciousness should lead to, like, better behavior.
Naturally, it seems. Developing divine virtues, kindness, compassion, sweetness.
And there's a strong warning, too, isn't there, about not defaming the Sat Guru, the true teacher.
Right. Respect for the source of the knowledge is emphasized. It all ties into this idea that the Father is here to lift souls up.
Into their ascending stage, benefiting everyone eventually.
It suggests a collective upliftment is possible through individual effort.
And just to reiterate the core belief about the soul itself.
It's immortal, imperishable, always exists.
So death isn't an end, it's just changing costumes, renouncing one body to take another part in the drama.
That's the perspective, yes. It takes the fear out of death, frames it as just a transition in the soul's long journey.
And it addresses that feeling of being separated from the divine for ages.
Yeah, it says, no, the Father has actually come now to meet the souls, to reconnect. This time is significant for that reunion.
Okay. Then there's truth and falsehood. The Father is truth.
The Father is truth and creates a true creation or is establishing one now. Truth leads to victory.
And falsehood, linked to Raven in the text, leads to defeat. So our journey is towards truth.
Towards establishing that true kingdom based on truth and purity. It's part of a larger cosmic cycle.
Wow. And one last really fascinating idea. The third eye of knowledge.
Ah, yes, becoming trinatary three-eyed.
And Trikaldarshi, knowing the three aspects of time, past, present, future.
Exactly. It's like this knowledge opens at a deeper level of perception, an inner vision.
So you understand not just the now, but the whole sweep of time and maybe even different dimensions, the three worlds it mentions.
It suggests a profound expansion of consciousness, seeing the bigger picture.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into the Murli, the core messages seem pretty clear.
Yeah, I think so. It boils down to knowing yourself as that eternal soul.
Right, that tiny point, yet eternal.
The absolute necessity of remembrance, that yoga practice for purifying the self.
Connecting with the Supreme Father.
And understanding your part in this huge cyclical drama of existence.
And really, the fundamental shift it asks for is moving from identifying with the body.
That temporary costume.
To identifying with the soul. That's presented as the key to everything else, to transformation.
Personal transformation, spiritual awakening, yeah. It changes how you view everything.
So maybe a final thought for you, listening. If you really took on board this idea that you are an eternal soul, an actor playing a specific part across countless lifetimes in this grand drama, How might that actually change your day-to-day, your priorities, what you consider important or trivial?
It's definitely something to mull over, isn't it? How that deep shift in identity could ripple outwards into your life.
Something to reflect on. We hope this dive gave you some rich food for thought.